New York Governor Andrew Cuomo returned to his regular press conferences yesterday to comment in part on sexual harassment allegations. Let's watch that.
You can find hundreds of pictures of me making the same gesture with hundreds of people, women, men, children, etc. You can go find hundreds of pictures of me kissing people, men, women. It is my usual and customary way of greeting. However, what I also understand is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter my intent. What it matters is if anybody was offended by it. And I could intend no offense, but if they were offended by it, then it was wrong.
Interesting. Possibly. Whether it convince you, I don't know. New polling from Nexstar New York and Emerson actually shows 64% of registered voters in the state think it's time for someone new to replace Cuomo. So host of Smart Folks with Don Calloway, Democratic strategist, CEO of Pine Street Strategies, and White House reporter for Politico, Gabby Orr. They join us now to discuss. Don, let me start with you. Obviously, this is probably the largest political crisis that Andrew Cuomo has ever faced. Now he's underwater both in favorability and in terms of re-election for the first time in modern memory, considering how popular he was just 6 months ago. Do you think that the governor will end up resigning or announcing that he may not run again as a result of this crisis?
He probably won't run again. I doubt that he'll resign. He's a tough guy. He's got a lot of, stick-to-itness, if you will. I don't know if that's the proper word, but he probably will not resign, but he probably won't seek re-election. Remember, his re-election in 2022 would have been for his fourth term. So I think he's done his bid. He's done his duty, his service to the city after 12 years as governor. New York does not have term limits for that office. So he's put in his time, and I think he should and I think he will probably not seek re-election. There's a very real threat from the left that he could get primaried by somebody more progressive if he did run. I'm sure he was aware of that even prior to these latest two scandals, the nursing home and the sexual harassment stuff. And that threat is even more real than it was when Cynthia Nixon ran against him a few years back. So he probably just won't run again, but I doubt that he will resign. And there's a model for that in Ralph Northam, who stuck it out just a few years ago in Virginia.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, Gabby, what do you think? I do want to say, look, of the various scandals that are afflicting Governor Cuomo right now, I think the nursing home conduct and the cover-up is incredibly egregious. And even if you put aside the sexual harassment allegations, to me, merit impeachment or resignation on their own. That's my own opinion in this whole situation. But looking at these numbers, even Dems are basically 50-50 on whether they would vote to re-elect Andrew Cuomo. And although, yes, in the past, progressives had an issue with Cuomo, at the height of coronavirus, when he was doing his presser and winning an Emmy and writing a book and all this, I mean, his approval ratings were sky high. So it's hard to overstate what a very rapid fall from grace this has all been.
Yeah, I mean, look, in some ways, the issues right now surrounding sexual assault allegations against him, sexual harassment allegations, are kind of the best thing to happen because there's no attention being paid to the nursing home scandal. And that is something that deserves a degree of scrutiny and definitely a closer look by not just local and state media in New York, but really Democratic lawmakers in the state who are there to hold their governor accountable. I think that there is room for more of a slide in his poll numbers. I think this Emerson poll was taken before we sort of saw that non-apology apology yesterday. And so, which in some ways was Governor Cuomo admitting to, making women feel uncomfortable in his interactions, and then also accusing women of misunderstanding his intentions, which is not the proper way to go about handling something like this. So there could definitely be a further fall from grace for him in the coming days. And I think, the more we see kind of a pile on, the more allegations that surface, there will come a time when he's either forced to resign under pressure from members of his own party or does need to make an announcement to say that he will not run for office again.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We're already seeing Don, Maya Wiley, and others who have called for him to resign within the state, not just within New York City politics, New York State as well. I had Assemblyman Ron Kim on yesterday. He's introduced articles of impeachment against Andrew Cuomo. How do you think Democrats should handle this? We saw Press Secretary Jen Psaki saying, look, we're going to let it play out, but not actually even commenting on the nursing home scandal and allegations themselves. What do you think the best way to handle this is?
Well, I think Crystal's right. First of all, the nursing home situation, I won't say it's worse, because if you're one of the women who was violated by the governor, then you definitely are in a position that, we don't want to diminish what happened to you, right? So the nursing home scandal on its own was sufficient to jeopardize the career of Governor Cuomo. I think national Democrats, honestly, with the exception of the talkerati, who this is what we do for a living, should probably stay out of this. I think we should just, we should do best to just stay out of it and let the people of New York handle this, either by election or by their own legislative action. I just don't like it, honestly, when national Democrats who have never voted for this man, don't know his track record of community service, don't know his record of legislative action or executive action or anything else, kind of pile on based upon clippings that they hear and what they understand and perceive the situation to be. So I just really don't think there's a national conversation to be had here unless it's coming from the White House. So I understand Jen Psaki articulating the position of the president, but I just really don't like the idea of Democrats from Idaho and Arizona weighing in about what Cuomo should do. This is a New York State Democratic Party issue.
Yeah, but Gabby, it was a national story when he was the, cause celeb of the Democratic. Remember all the rumors about they're going to swap out Joe Biden for Andrew Cuomo? People writing all these embarrassing pieces, national pieces about how their big crush on Andrew Cuomo, the term Cuomo-sexuals was horrifically coined during that phase. And so look, I already told you my feelings about the nursing home scandal versus the Me Too allegations here, but part of why this is hitting so hard, people like Maya Wiley turning on him, is liberals, mainline Democratic liberals, loved this guy. And the Me Too allegations are what are really turning the tide with them and turning them ultimately, Gabby, against him.
Well, and I think in the last year, just by his handling of the coronavirus pandemic in the state of New York, he's positioned himself as a national leader. He's tried, he wrote a book saying that there are other governors in the country who should follow his lead in the ways that he handled the virus in New York. He's, appeared on television routinely to talk about all the things that he's done for the state of New York. I know this is completely separate from the sexual harassment allegations, but I do think it speaks to the fact that he's, spent years trying to rise up the ranks in the Democratic Party and has ultimately become somebody who does receive national attention and is close and cozy with Democratic and Republican politicians at the national level. So I do think that there's certainly room for scrutiny from the White House and from Democrats in Congress and in his own state legislature over both of these issues.
Yeah.
Well, especially, Kirsten Gillibrand, who represents that state and forced Al Franken out of the Senate, suddenly quiet on this one. Pretty interesting.
Look, the man wanted to be president. Doesn't look like that's going to be happening anytime soon. All right, stick with us, guys. More Rising for you after this.